This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Atya Nusrat, IQAC Coordinator of Villamari Degree College. Kindly pay attention to the following guidelines. Mute your mic and disable the webcam throughout the session for smooth live streaming. Do not post any messages when the speaker is sharing the screen. And if you have any questions to the speaker, kindly post it in the chat box. Your questions will be answered by the resource person at the end of the session. The link for the feedback form will be posted in the chat box after the session is completed. Kindly fill the feedback form to generate your e-certificate. The e-certificates will be sent only to participants who fill the feedback form. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Kindly follow a few instructions during the webinar. Please mute your mic and disable the webcam throughout the session. Do not post any messages when the speaker is sharing the screen. And any questions to the speaker, kindly post it in the chat box. Your questions will be answered by the resource person at the end of the session. The link for the feedback form will be posted in the chat box after the session is completed. Kindly fill the feedback form. E-certificates will be sent only to the participants who fill the feedback form. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to start the webinar in a short while. Before that, I would like to give you a few instructions. Kindly mute your mic and disable your webcam throughout the session for smooth live streaming. Please do not put any messages when the speaker is sharing the screen. If you have any questions for the speaker, kindly post it in the chat box. Your questions will be answered by the resource person at the end of the session. And the link for the feedback form will be posted in the chat box after the session is completed. Kindly fill the feedback form to generate your certificate. E-certificates will be sent only to participants who fill the feedback form. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mrs. Revati Devi Mathur, in charge, Villamari Degree College. On behalf of Villamari Degree College, I welcome you all to the international webinar. Welcome to Villamari, a threshold of knowledge and dissemination of truth. We are aware of the paradigm shift that has taken place. The task of modern educator is not to cut jungles, but to irrigate deserts. Villamari promises to impart holistic learning, which is a blend of intelligence and emotional quotients. Villamari Degree College for Women has been successfully empowering women by enabling them to cope with the challenges at various levels. The institution endeavors to make young women strong and confident by imparting transformational skill-based education that is intellectually stimulating and academically inspiring. Villamari has been proactive and instrumental in fostering online learning and has been working relentlessly to make the knowledge accessible to Villamari College has carved a niche for over 25 years now and has always been the fulcrum of teacher-learner interface, emphasizing the entire academic and extracurricular activities. We at Villamari not only believe in transferring knowledge and teach important skills, but also to raise fundamental questions. We create dynamic learning environment for all our students by using best practice teaching methods that will foster the continuous learning and growth of every student. And this has thrown Villamari Degree College on the meritorious list for being the most consistent, high-performing college in the Twin Cities. The college imbibes the modern technology and traditional methods of education. This contrast is made possible by our founder, director, and correspondent, Dr. Philomena, who has the narrative arc which symbolizes women power. She is the lady who looks at the big picture and plans strategically, a visionary and a superachiever, an undisputed leader who's instrumental in making Villamari in imparting education with enriching vistas and instrumental in fostering online learning and has been working relentlessly to make the knowledge accessible to every learner. The lockdown did not deter our spirits for the knowledge acquisition, but the homebound mode now has converted the learning outbound. This has increased our quest for how digitization or e-business will frame out post the COVID-19 crisis. Today, we are delighted and honored to host the international webinar on the future of digital transformation and e-business. We are overwhelmed that our webinar has digitally bridged the geographical boundaries and we have participants worldwide. I thank you all for taking time out and being here today. I realize that you're fully dedicated to the session that will follow. I wish you all a very fruitful and a productive session. Thank you. I now request Mrs. Atiya Nusrat, IQAC Coordinator of Villamari Degree College, to take over the proceedings of the webinar. Over to you, Atiya. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. The coronavirus pandemic is a humanitarian crisis that continues to take a tragic toll on people's lives. There's no denying it is also acting as a catalyst for change, economic, societal, personal, and corporate.
It is also acting as a catalyst for change, economic, societal, personal, and corporate, on a scale not seen since wartime. And for all the uncertainty about what the future will look like, it's clear already that it will be digital. Needless to say, the pandemic has transformed the centuries old chalk talk teaching model to one driven by technology. This disruption in the delivery of education is pushing education policymakers to figure out how to drive engagement at scale while ensuring inclusive e-learning solutions and tackling the digital divide pacing towards futurism. Despite the immense challenges humanity is managing today, now is the time to act. There is much we don't know, but drawing on our experience and lessons learned, when enterprises should take a more structured approach, including a clear strategy, entrepreneurial talent, and the proper balance between student support and operational freedom. The pandemic has significantly disrupted the higher education sector as well, which is a critical determinant of a country's economic future. Will the searing experience of simultaneous health and economic crisis change how education sector balance resilience and risk? To address the future of digital transformation and e-business. To acquaint us with the new normal, we bring to you an exclusive web interaction with a global expert deliberating on emerging business technologies and digital transformation. Please allow me to extend an amiable welcome to Dr. Drupad Mathur, who has joined us today live from Dubai. Mr. Mathur is an associate professor in information technology at SP Jain School of Global Management, world's top-rated business school in Dubai, United Arab Emirates since 2008. He has served in various administrative positions, including the Director of Industry Projects from year 2008 to 2016, and as an Assistant Dean in the Executive Masters of Business Administration program during 2016-17 till date. Dr. Mathur has an experience for over a decade in ICT education policy and consulting. He has a commendable association with the United Nations as a fellow for the working on internet governance and also in the Strategy Council. He has been recognized as emerging leader of the digital world in the year 2007. A cordial welcome to you, sir. I now request Dr. Drupad Mathur to take over the proceedings. Your queries and doubts will be addressed after the session ends. Therefore, please, participants, drop your questions in the chat box provided. Also, to conserve the bandwidth and for smooth live streaming, please ensure that your videos are disabled and you are on mute mode. Over to you, Dr. Drupad, for the session. Thank you, sir.
Thanks very much, Dr. Revati, for that wonderful introduction of the institution and my introduction as well. I'm really delighted to join you all in this webinar on this contemporary theme of digital transformation and the future of digital transformation as well as e-business. I'm looking forward to our interactions today. I do have a couple of things in store, and I'm sure we will have sufficient opportunities for everyone to interact. Before I take you through what I have in store in terms of the brief set of slides and content that I have compiled, I would like to highlight the relevance and importance of this particular topic and why educators need to know about it. I'm sure most of us present here today, I was just talking to Dr. Revati also about the profile of attendees, people from professors who are, hello, am I audible? Yeah, all right. So it's important for us to understand what it entails. Digital transformation has been one of the key concern and key topic for the boardroom discussions since last 20 years. And it is going to remain so in the coming 20 years as well. Why? Because the organizations, typically traditional organizations, were not really conceptualized keeping the digital revolution which has happened in last 2 or 3 decades. And therefore people were carrying out their businesses the way they would. And then technology used to be an afterthought. Only a little later, in last 2 decades, people realize that a lot of technological development is happening and they need to take notice and also ensure that they are imbibing technology suitably in their business strategy. And hence, now we see that various organizations during the last decade have kept technology as one of the centerpiece of business strategy, and they have obtained different types of benefits. However, please note that in the last 2 to 3 decades, we have actually seen, if I may say, 2 or 3 different generations of technological advancements, and which is what actually adds a little bit of a complexity to this problem of the digital transformation and its future. Because when the underlying technological changes are happening, when the technology form factors and devices and applications are changing so very fast, what does the future entail for all of us, for our organizations? I mean, most of us today here in this webinar are from the education sector. Equally so, as Dr. Revati just highlighted in her opening speech, how today's era is forcing us to change. And you never know that these changes may end up becoming permanent, but we'll come to that a little later. Coming back to the significance of digital transformation, please understand that we are living through an age where the underlying technologies are changing very fast, and newer generations of technology form factors and technology concepts are coming our way. Which means once you have gone on board this digital revolution, digital transformation, then you actually have no choice but to keep running with it. I am reminded of a very interesting quote by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, who is Prime Minister of UAE, as he says, in the race for excellence, there is no finishing line. This applies so very well to digital transformation. Once you have adopted and embraced digital transformation, there is actually no finishing line. You have to keep running and you have to keep fast. So on this note, let us start the presentation. I hope the slide is visible to everyone. We did enough testing, I believe. So let me start with this very interesting insights from McKinsey Global Institute. They have conducted studies across various organizations, interviewed various CIOs and CTOs and CEOs. The essence of last 25 years of their studies is presented in these slides. So in the next 2 slides, I'm going to share with you the essence of the studies that they have conducted since last 25 years on the theme of digital transformation. Look at what they say first. Large economic potential is linked to digitization, and much of it is yet to be captured. We have been talking about digital transformation. Every boardroom meeting, every senior executive thinks of technological adoption and technological changes, but still, as per their studies and none other than McKinsey Global, since last 25 years, they still say, and this particular report is as recent as 2019, they still say that much of the economic value has to be still captured, which means we have no choice to deal with this for another 15 to 20 years for sure. The next thing is that digital superstars are rising far beyond the US Big Four and China's Big Three. Gone are the days when only those big daddies used to invest in technology. With the advent of new technological phenomena such as cloud computing, the scenario has changed a lot. So not those big guys and those big companies or the big countries anymore, but the power of technology is being realized far and wide across the globe by businesses and organizations of all shapes and sizes, and even at an individual level as well. Needless to say, digital natives are calling the shots. I'm sure most of us are from the education sector. We realize that yes, digital natives, we all are dealing with digital natives. This generation of individuals, I think, that most of you are teaching now, most of them are digital natives. So they are the ones who are actually determining the fate of the new markets, how things are emerging, and how these things are going to shape in future. Digitalization is actually changing everything. That is another major essence of the McKinsey report. It is changing the industry boundaries. There is a very profound impact of this statement, but I will just touch upon this by just telling you that the way companies have been looking at their products, their services, their solutions, their competitors, their stakeholders, that whole concept has been changing and changing very fast because of the digitalization. And we'll see how that resolution is happening across the industry spectrum. Agile is the new way to compete. So gone are the days when people used to go for very structured, long-drawn project management, initiatives. They have to be very agile, both in terms of executing their strategy and also in terms of executing those projects. So there is an iterative and recursive loop in doing things fast, testing it out, what works, what doesn't, and move on, because the pace of innovation is just so very fast. Let's take a look at the next set of insights from the same report. So, playing the platform economy is an in-the-money option, which means anyone can realize the benefit of platform economy. We have various examples in various industries. Some popular examples you would have heard about are Airbnb and Uber, and these companies that do not typically belong to the industries that they are disrupting. So Airbnb is not a hotel. Okay, and why it took Airbnb to do what it did, or why Uber to do what it did. I'm not talking about the robustness or merit of these, or the strength of these models. I'm only talking from the point of view of realization of great economic impact using platform-based models. So that's a very important phenomena which has happened. In fact, some time back, the Harvard Business Review, published a full coverage on the platform economy and how it actually threatens to impact the existing industry ecosystem. And I think people from the education sector should also be concerned about it equally well. Suddenly you see players like Coursera and EDX and Udemy coming into your ecosystem, where these courses conducted by some prominent professors from all over the world are available to anyone, most of them at very small fee, sometimes even free of cost. So I think in the education sector, we all are just protected only by the regulators. The moment regulators start recognizing these as proper credits into a program, I don't know what will be the shape of education industry. So platform economy is a very, very disruptive phenomena. And the next thing is self-cannibalization and innovation are a necessity for digital reinvention. As well, it applies to education sector, but enough of education examples. I will quickly go on to the other set of examples that I have in store. Some of them are quite extreme in nature. I'll come to that. So you need to understand how you are going to constantly innovate your product space by shifting the boundaries of your industry, and even if needed, cannibalizing the existing product. Then only you will be able to get the best out of this digital revolution. Going after the right mergers and acquisition is the key. That's just a part of any business strategy. And effective management of digital transformation is vital but challenging. We all have been talking about digitalization and the benefits thereof, but bear in mind, we are looking at a 25-year study. It brings out very clearly that almost 40% of the digital transformations do fail. So not each and every digital transformation will create value. All right. Leveraging and transitioning from the digital to new frontier technologies is imperative. And in my next slide, I'll just take you through a glimpse of what those new frontier technologies are. And I'll introduce another keyword, which is the fourth industrial revolution, which very clearly encompasses the new frontier technologies. So what we have seen, just to start this session in last couple of minutes, I have just shown you the essence of what has happened in the field of digitalization, digital transformation in last 25 years, okay? And we will see how things are going to play out in future. So the fourth industrial revolution is already here, all right? Let me just introduce this concept through a small video clip from the World Economic Forum. All right, so you have seen a very quick introduction to the fourth industrial revolution and why we need to really talk about it in terms of the future of the digital transformation and e-business. Please understand that in last 15 to 20 years, we have seen that various business organizations, various companies of all sizes all over the world have adopted technology. What was happening around year 2000 was basically the advent, around year 2000 was the advent of web-based commerce, and in no time we saw that various companies have started, at that point in time they started creating their websites, and everybody just jumped on the bandwagon and they wanted to create their online transactions, online portals supporting online transactions, and wanted to ensure that everybody was present on web. So internet was a big thing at that point in time. Obviously, I think most of us might have heard about the dot-com demise, and also we know the reasons for the same. Many companies actually jumped in, looking only at the economic benefit without the realization of the underlying business model. And we have also seen how many of those actually failed. But internet was a big thing, right? So after that revolution went through its advent, its emergence and maturity, after that we have seen the mobile-based revolution. So suddenly, like 7 to 9 years ago, or almost 10 years ago, you might have noticed that many companies started thinking about having mobile based applications, and everybody was launching mobile applications, and it was a big thing. Today it's the norm of the day. Nobody talks about that anymore. It just goes without saying that as long as you are operating an online business, obviously you will have a fully functional website which allows you to do all the transactions. You will be able to communicate with the stakeholders, do your Hello. Yeah. So after the after the web revolution, we had the mobile revolution. And those two shifts were significant because it resulted in a lot of economic value, and a number of companies ended up getting the benefit out of both. Today, we are witnessing something which is far more disruptive in nature. And I have shown you a very small glimpse of the fourth industrial revolution, how various new concepts like Internet of Things, smart homes and smart cities, artificial intelligence, robotics, robotic process automation, big data, augmented reality, virtual reality, digital twins, etc. Augmentation with the biological sciences, developments in the material sciences, things such as carbon nanotubes, nanotechnology, etc. All these are playing out to create the next wave of a big revolution, which is yet to be fully explored. I just mentioned to you that most of the corporations were still struggling with their digital transformation and e-business strategy using those two old form factors, or the two old waves of web-based and mobile-based innovation. They were still struggling, and here comes another wave of revolution, which is powered by all these new technological concepts. Just imagine what will be the impact on the business strategy when it comes to the adoption of all these new technological concepts and new technological form factors, which I have listed on my slide. This is just a representative list, by the way. It's a big list of things that are actually coming our way. So the underlying technology is changing very fast, and this is going to give us enormous power, enormous impetus to create new types of business model. Going further, so what are the key drivers of this digital transformation? Today, we are talking about the future of digital transformation and e-business. What is it that is going to drive that future? We need to understand that, without which we cannot understand the future. So as I mentioned, the first driver is the fourth industrial revolution itself, the advent of all these new technologies that are creating a different type of a battlefront for us. So let me put it in simple terms. Gone are the days when you used to compare only the websites of your competitors. For example, if you are a business owner, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, you were at peace adopting a web-based, an online commerce model. You would just do a comparison. Okay, this is my website. These are the features that I am offering. Maybe technologically, you have spruced up your website by making it more faster and all those things that technical people do. So it was a website to website comparison, and you are at peace. Okay, I'm still doing better than my competitors, and the battlefront, so as to say, was just that website. So as long as I am able to drive people to visit my website and transact business for me, I will emerge as a winner in the online commerce, and that was the only puzzle I was supposed to solve. Not anymore. Subsequently, there was the emergence of mobile commerce, and companies were forced to adopt that as a channel. And now you look at this new forefront, this new battleground, where you have a range of technologies, and some of these are highly immersive and interactive. And we are not talking of rocket science, by the way. I have a couple of examples. All this is already happening in and around us, whether we realize it, whether we know it, whether we have, seen it or not. So this is the first driver, the fourth industrial revolution itself. The second is the technological advancement has resulted in much higher processing speed, much higher storage and connectivity at much lesser a cost. Thanks to concepts such as cloud computing, you don't have to be that big guy to start a business. In the good old days, like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, only those big corporations who had the wherewithal to invest in technology were able to get benefit out of it, because the mid-sized companies or small players were absolutely not motivated to invest in technology, because the cost was an inhibitor. Not anymore. In last 5 to 7 years, we have seen that cloud has become an industry de facto model where a number of corporations are using cloud-based applications or infrastructure and harnessing the power and pay in a pay-as-you-go model rather than making upfront investment in the IT infrastructure, which used to prevent them to actually get the power of IT. So a lot of miniaturization, a lot of advancement in the very high processing power, very high storage capacities, very high connectivity, etc., are available to us at much cheaper costs. So we are living in this era, which means merely access to technology will not create a competitive effect for any business organization. So what will? That's one big question that we need to address. The third key factor is the emergence of newer business models. More and more examples are seen across various industries where new forms of business models are emerging, whether the monetization opportunities have been explored or not, whether the revenue models have been explored or not, that's another debate. But new models are emerging, giving a threat to the existing players, and the existing players are feeling the heat, be it any industry, banking and personal loans. You have pure play digital counterparts that are coming into all those industries and giving threat to traditional banking, because these new models do not carry the baggage of those the legacy business models. And education, I just mentioned, what if tomorrow most of these courses can be replaced or can be recognized as a credit equivalent from a university? Will somebody come to a college? I don't know. So all these sort of new players who are landing up in every other industry ecosystem, they are creating new types of business models, which in turn is changing the dynamics of competition. So we are now dealing with a very, very different animal when it comes to looking at the digital transformation and e-business of the future. So we need to understand what this animal is before we know how to handle it. Okay. So let me go further. I have taken an example of disruption in farming. This is an example from SAP. It's basically an overview of digital farming. So this is a small clip. Take a look at it. And there is a reason why I have intentionally taken a traditional and a primary sector for showing you the disruption, because we don't generally have this habit of looking at traditional or legacy sectors when it comes to disruption. We generally look at service industries, or we look at those portals or those businesses where we have had some experience as an end user or maybe as a customer. So look at what has happened in the digital farms.
Farming is getting digital. Geofencing and strategically placed sensors deliver crucial data of the entire farm. This information is all collected and analyzed by one cloud platform. Technology that makes farming more efficient. For example, during corn harvest, farmer Josef Cordes has about 570 dairy cows and cultivates more than 200 hectares of forage corn. Every year, he's facing the challenge to coordinate the best processes that come with harvesting corn.
We had to delay our date of harvest twice this year because the corn matured too late. This means we have to coordinate new appointments with the contractor because other companies postponed too. This is very stressful.
This is why SAP and Krona, one of the leading manufacturers of agricultural machinery, joined forces with 15 other partners to develop a solution connecting all parties: digital farming.
First of all, we address the farmer and his needs, but we also see a wide range of applications for manufacturers of agricultural machinery or suppliers. Finally, it will include the complete range of planning, cultivation and sale.
With the joint solution, all parties can access a common data platform. During harvest, the Krona machinery automatically documents all generated data. The farmer can access and manage these data real time wherever he is.
During the harvest, I can see in real time where exactly the machinery is located and how much of the field they have cropped. On the basis of these real-time data, I can react.
The farmer can also get exact information about the nutritive value of his corn right on the spot. So he is able to always prepare the optimal food mixture for his high-performance dairy cows. Digital communication between farmer and contractor helps to make farming not only more efficient, but also more sustainable.
Concerning crop protection and fertilizer, you can better plan on how much fertilizer to use next year. Based on the harvest data of previous years that is provided by the machines, it is possible to compare yield to fertilizer usage. This saves money and protects the environment.
A further advantage, every field is different in soil or moisture. The farmer can accumulate important details like maturation of seed for every part of the field. This information helps to better organize his resources in the next year.
We would rather use a pipette than a bucket on the fields. The more precise you can plan, the more data you have, the better you can manage your resources at this point.
Looking ahead, digital farming provides various opportunities. For example, biological pest control with drones. The drones detect from above eventual attackers and also deliver their natural enemies simply by airdrop. Another option for more sustainable farming.
All right, so you have seen how a primary sector, a traditional business of agriculture, is susceptible to technological changes with the advent of technology, which means that it doesn't really matter who you are, where you come from, which type of business organization you belong to, there is a high likelihood that these new set of technologies, you could see a drone there, you could see an IoT, a sensor-based network, a complete management information system which controls that particular field. This has already started happening. This is not rocket science anymore, as I said. So this sort of a percolation of various technology form factors, new technology concepts across various industry ecosystems is happening, and that is what is actually powering the digital transformation for future. What is it leading to? That we need to understand in order to understand the future of digital transformation. So as you have seen, in case of the digital disruption of farming, it has actually changed the rules of the game. Just imagine the kind of efficiency, predictability, transparency, and control that this farmer would have got when he is able to control and follow what is happening in his field. And when things are being done in a digital manner, you don't just rely only on judgment and intuition. Farming is a profession where the knowledge of growing crops is being transferred from one generation to the other, and they know what are the thumb rules, and not everything is documented. But here is yet another extreme where you have digital farming. Each and every data through the sensor network is going into the information system, and in no time, in a couple of years, you have your own data repository, and you know how my crop will behave in what type of weather conditions and what will happen in my field, and you can also do predictive analytics, etc. So the entire power of IT-based transformation comes into your hand, even when you are doing something which is an age-old profession like agriculture, right? So what all this actually leads to? It leads to redefining the competition and the industry boundaries as well. So the entire boundary has been redefined. In case of agriculture, just imagine those farmers who are not able to adopt technology, they will see a comparative drop in productivity while they have been doing things the old way, which worked well, but comparatively their productivity goes down because here is another farmer who is growing the crops in a slightly different way using technology, and therefore he has a better control on his production. So the competition gets redefined, and also the industry boundaries are changing. You are not just dealing only with your regular stakeholders, but you are dealing with different type of stakeholders, even in terms of having eradicated the middleman. I know in India there is a very interesting example of ITC e-Chapal, which was a popular model a couple of years ago, and those of you who have heard about it would know what change it brought into the lives of farmers. So e-Chapal and those were the model. It also creates a shift in the balance of power between the stakeholders, customers, channel partners, and suppliers, which means that the, the way the old relationships have been playing out, that will change, and generally it is in favor of the customers, because the efficiencies of the production system and also compression of the distribution system, those benefits are eventually passed down to the customer. So it shifts the balance of power, and it also helps in realignment of relationship across various stakeholders. We have various case studies to prove this point, a very, very interesting point. Time does not permit because of the paucity of time. I'll not be able to go into all these, but this is a very, very interesting area when you are drawing out your new e-business models on an e-business canvas, if I may say. You have to think in terms of realignment of relationship, and that is where the future lies for you. The next is squeezing out the inefficiencies of the pre-existing model. So this is one note which I have taken here, and this is based on my empirical observation. Whatever pre-existing systems or age-old professions, or the so-called tried and tested models are in existence, e-business further squeezes out the inefficiencies, and also it changes the revenue models. The second last point is also very disruptive. Please understand that the future of digital transformation is all about resolving the existing economies. Just imagine, I'll give you a simple example rather than going into long case studies because we don't have time. You would have experienced perhaps taxi service from Ola or Uber or whatever. This is a very simple example. Just take a step back and think about how it has dissolved the economics, the entire economic model of an existing industry ecosystem, which is your taxi service. Taxi services were in existence even before the advent of Ola and Uber. But when Ola came or when Uber came, it disrupted that model and changed the revenue equations completely. So you are able to get it at much cheaper a cost at a time of your choice. So what it does is that this sort of a model creates a balance between excess of demand and excess of supply at a given point in time. So this demand and supply, which means there are people who want to take up a taxi and there are people who have an extra capacity. Those cars are freely available. Nobody is using them, and that extra capacity, which was already there, nobody was using them. That generates economic value for the owner of the car, and the taxi user, he gets a better deal because he is not hiring a typical taxi, and therefore those costs are not there. Which is why I started by saying that some of these disruptive models will actually question the boundaries of industry regulations as well. And earlier when I was talking about this model related to pure play digital banking, the regulators in UK have gone on board formally to agree that these sort of models have really tested the boundary of their industry regulations. Okay. The last point here is new or newly discovered sources of business value. So we have to always look at, are we really going to deliver the same type of value to our customers or to our stakeholders? That is not where the future lies. Either there are new sources of value or there are some newly discovered values in the existing system that you will have to look for. Then you are looking at a future of digital transformation, not doing business the old way, but perhaps doing even the old business in a slightly newer way, or discovering a new source of value. All right. So let me give you an example of how some companies, and this is again an extreme example of from heavy engineering or industrial sector, how some companies have discovered untapped value out of the existing information, something which was already existing, but just because your fourth industrial revolution technologies allow you to trap that value and create an economic value out of it. Let us see what they are doing. So this is an example of digital twins for you. Again, a very small video clip. Take a look at it.
Today, industrial assets are designed, built, and operated relying on numerous data sources and various models. Engineers work with enormous amounts of data. Specialized teams create models separately and conduct analyses for their specific tasks. The most important information and calculations may not be readily available for crucial decisions. This way of working in silos drives cost and inefficiencies, creates uncertainties, and represents a vast amount of time and resources. Is your company getting the most out of these investments? In order to give your engineers the competitive edge in a tough business environment, companies must look intensely at innovations that will drive efficiency. There is a better, more efficient way of working with models. DNV-GL's Digital Twin. The Digital Twin is a cloud-based virtual image of your asset, maintained throughout the life cycle and easily accessible at any time. One platform brings all the experts together, providing powerful analysis, insight, and diagnostics. Your engineers will work cost-effectively on a collaboration platform that gives early insight into potential conflicts, resulting in fewer errors and less rework. Sensor data, remote monitoring, and analytics made possible by the digital twin enable more profitable, safe, and sustainable operations. Based on broad and deep domain knowledge, DNV-GL is a world-leading provider of technical software. Through innovation, we are leading the transformation toward a data-smart future, ultimately improving your business results. And together, we can help ensure companies, industries, and societies become safer, smarter, greener. Get the complete picture.
All right, so you have seen this example of digital twins, and see how the existing information has been used to create a new type of a value in the business ecosystem. And here we are talking about some very, very expensive resources. We are talking of an oil rig. We are talking of windmill farms. You can't stop them for preventive for maintenance, right? The cost of downtime is very high. So how do you handle this problem when there is so much of money at stake? That's the power of digital twin. By creating a virtual replica of a physical asset, which is a very costly asset, you can't just play around. It helps you to do preventive maintenance. It helps you to do scenario analysis. It helps you to share the information on the go with various specialists and experts situated in different parts of the world, and you can have a better control and a better transparency on the whole operations. Scenario analysis is a very interesting concept which the digital twin has brought in, and these digital twins are being used across various sectors. This is all an integrated application of those fourth industrial revolution concepts like artificial intelligence and data analytics and robotic process automations, etc., augmented reality, etc., which has given rise to this type of an application. And various examples are available. In fact, I would urge, if you are interested, please explore more, something which is very, very interesting. So what exactly is the scenario analysis is all about? Suppose on a construction site, just imagine any construction site in your mind, any big construction site where you will have all those cranes going in all possible directions. Do you think that they just put up those cranes randomly? No, they do a planning, and they do this entire planning of how the cranes will be placed, what will be the degree of freedom, what will be the possible movement, etc., throughout various phases of the construction project. Otherwise, these cranes will end up colliding with each other on a daily basis. But that does not happen. If it happens, the cost of downtime will be very high. The entire construction comes for a halt. Just imagine all those contractors, contracted labors, the material, the cement on, in the mixers. So there would be tremendous loss. So digital twin helps you to do a scenario analysis, and it helps you to plan how those cranes will be planted. And when you are doing the scenario analysis, how it is, you can always ask me how it is different from a normal computer-based simulation, and I will explain that to you in a very simple manner, without taking much time. See, when you do scenario analysis, the resultant scenario can be transferred to the actual equipment, which means the software knows the actual condition of the crane. It is not what is written in the product manual given by the company. No, it is as per the actual condition of the crane, which means how old are the ropes, what is the present wind condition outside, how much is the temperature and humidity, what is the present state of affairs as far as the maintenance of this machine is concerned, when was the last preventive maintenance done. So if crane allows you to take up a load of 40 tons, your scenario analysis tells you that in the given scenario and with this equipment, this specific equipment, you can only take up a load of 30 tons. So you do this in a computer simulation setting and then transfer your decision to the real machine, and it executes that. Okay, so that's how it is different from a computer-based simulation. And these technologies, which I have just explained to you, allow you to do that. So look at how the things are going to change in future, and these things have already gradually started percolating in various industry ecosystems, whether we know it, whether we have observed it or not. Okay. So moving on, I just wanted to show you how are we doing on time. Okay, I think we need to quickly move on. So I'll just show you another very interesting clip on AI-powered news anchor. Look at how existing professions are getting dissolved. You don't really need a physical news anchor. There is an artificial intelligence-powered news anchor who has understood how news anchors behave, their expressions, the way they read news, and this is what CNBC has to say. So let's take a look at that.
Hello, everyone. I'm an English artificial intelligence anchor. This is my very first day in Xinguan's agency. The development of the media industry calls for continuous innovation and deep integration with the international advanced technologies. I will work tirelessly to keep you informed as texts will be typed into my system, uninterrupted. I look forward to bringing you the brand new news experiences. As an AI news anchor under development, I know there is a lot for me to improve.
All right, so time will only tell us whether we are going to get these AI-based news anchors in future and how mainstream they were. But I just wanted to show you some far-flung areas, some extreme examples of where technology has just percolated. It doesn't matter which profession you come from, which industry you come from, technology just comes in and plays out its benefit. Okay, I'm sure since all of us come from India, we would be happy to have these news anchors, right, as compared to the choice that we have these days. All right, uh, moving on to this contemporary example. No discussion these days is complete without talking about COVID, right? So I'm sure you all have been following various developments on that COVID front, and uh, there is obviously light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of research is happening in terms of developing the vaccine, and it is just a matter of time. It is just a matter of time. We have enough technological competence globally that I'm sure it is just a matter of time. Things will be back to normal. But I just wanted to present to you a very interesting concept as to how technology is playing out even here in this field. So there is a very interesting, this is an example of gamification. It's a very interesting game called Fold It. It's a fairly intuitive game. It has been in existence for past several years. This was pioneered by the University of Washington, the Institute of Protein Studies. And this is very intuitive. And, those people who generally kids, high school kids, middle school kids, they find it quite intuitive and they like playing this game. So this game is basically a collection of various mazes. As you can see on your screen, there is a maze in front of you. It's a complex maze. So they are supposed to solve the maze based on the rules of the game. But this maze is not just any other maze. This is one type of a protein structure. Why? What is the significance of this is that those scientists that are actually doing research on protein structure and what is the impact of various alkaloids on different parts of the human beings. We all are made up of proteins, right? So the medicines they have to go in and they have to interact with the proteins within the body in order to be assimilated. So unless you don't know what would be the most stable protein structure, you'll not be able to discover the drug, as they say. So here is a game that allows you to try out a large number of possible combinations of folding of the protein chains. Why is this important, and why we need a large number of players to volunteer in this exercise? While the high school kids or middle school kids don't even know what they are participating in, they are participating in this research which is being done by this institution. They are only playing a game as per the rules of the game, but they are helping to solve this very complex problem of protein folding by making some stable structures using this maze. Why do you need those people? Because this problem typically cannot be solved by computers only, and there is a visual angle. You have to do things visually to solve this maze, and then only the protein structure becomes stable. So while those school-going kids are playing this game, they are trying to solve this complex problem of protein folding. How it helps in COVID, there is a recent update from the Institute of Protein Studies in the University of Washington. They have actually put the structure of various proteins related to the protein folding of COVID, and they have put up various puzzles, and they are asking volunteers, common people like you and me who have no exposure. You don't have to have any exposure to structural biology or anything of that sort. You only play this puzzle, which is just like a maze, and you are trying to solve it, but you are creating a large number of possible combinations. So people compete against each other, and the best possible stable structure wins, and then it goes to the. So this is something which was only in the confines of those high-end scientists. Not everyone could participate in protein folding in the good old days. Nobody would understand, because it's a problem that belongs to those high-end laboratories. Look at how I just mentioned to you, it dissolves the entire existing business model. Look at how such a complex problem has been federated out from the laboratories closely guarded by intellectual property of those scientists, and those high school kids and school going kids can play this game and help in solving this problem. So the University of Washington has actually published the protein structures, and obviously if somebody is interested, they can go online, play this, and help them to fight COVID. Actually, that is what the media release is. They help us to fight COVID. Play the game, try out various possible protein structure combinations by using this puzzle, and perhaps some combination will work, and we are going to find some way to deal with it. Just imagine. So that's a contemporary example of how technology comes to your rescue here as well. I am aware of the time limit, and so I will not take, let me just quickly take you through this video, which is an explanation of what I have just mentioned.
So you've already heard about coronavirus in the news. Researchers are working hard on the problem, but there's something you can do to help besides washing your hands. To explain, let's take a quick look at the science behind coronavirus. Coronavirus gets its name from its structure, which can be seen under a very high-powered microscope. Under the microscope, the coronavirus particle is surrounded by a halo or corona of spike proteins. These spike proteins allow the virus to recognize and infect human cells. If we could design an antiviral drug to block the recognition and infection from these spike proteins, we might be able to stop people from getting sick. So where do these antiviral drugs come from? We think we have an answer with Foldit. Foldit is a free online game you can download from our website, fold.it. Foldit is run entirely by academic scientists at universities around the US and is not for profit. We recently posted a new Foldit puzzle that allows anyone to try and design an antiviral protein against coronavirus spike protein. To get started, you download Foldit from our website, sign in with the username, and play through some tutorials to learn the basic rules of the game. We have a beginner puzzle in which you can refold an existing protein that binds coronavirus. We also have an advanced puzzle where players can design a new protein from scratch. The most promising designs will be manufactured and tested at the University of Washington Institute for Protein Design for binding against the coronavirus protein. We want to emphasize that this is the very first step in drug discovery. Any antiviral proteins discovered by Foldit players would still need to undergo lots of testing for safety and efficacy, and that will take time. We hope you check out the puzzle. The more people who play, the better chance of finding an antiviral protein that might stop people from getting sick. Thanks for watching.
All right. So as you have seen, this is very interesting, application of technology in this particular sector. Let us hope to hear some good news. I'm also, mindful of time. We need to keep some time for interaction, and I believe I have already received quite a few queries in the chat box, so I'll come to that in a minute. But let us end this session by listening to some visionaries, what they have to say about the future of digital transformation and e-business. And with this, we will conclude our session, and then I will come to Q&A. So let us listen to some visionaries.
In the next few years, I expect the digital transformation of life to bring huge changes. Everything from science to healthcare to sensors to robotics.
Whether it's information technology and the acceleration we see in artificial intelligence, you just look across the board and you can see a lot is happening.
It's really the notion of digital technology pervasively impacting every walk of life in every vertical industry on all parts of the globe.
The speed is mind-boggling. What I'm particularly concerned about, it is how little the world is prepared for the fourth industrial revolution.
If we are not innovative, if we're not creative enough, it will be very difficult to survive in this century.
Countries in emerging markets should take the lead. Mobile platforms will define how fast the fourth industrial revolution will be embraced by the country.
It's very difficult to try to bridge the gap between a borderless industrial revolution that's being governed by different policies and regulations in each territory and country.
We're always looking for new technology and how it makes the process more efficient, how it makes the quality higher. But one of the things that it's really creating is a need for those that have a technical background.
52% of the encounters with our primary care physicians were handled virtually. Just a massive change.
The technologies available today to scientists, to clinicians, and to everyday people will impact and change healthcare forever.
Humans and machines are assisting each other, augmenting each other with skills.
Humanity itself will be changed with this superintelligence, and we are at the doorstep of that era.
World Economic Forum is in the best position to meet a lot of these challenges that Fourth Industrial Revolution is going to bring.
The opening of the San Francisco Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution really provides a useful platform to bring together the smartest brains who are right at the leading edge of this technology.
I deeply believe in this idea of cross-fertilization. Good ideas come less from inside brilliant people's heads and more from seeing patterns.
We have to think about things quite a bit differently. That's why I'm so excited about what's happening right here in San Francisco, to be able to have a multi-stakeholder dialogue around the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
My hope is that we have a robust discussion for how this can truly help our world solve some of the hard-pressed challenges that we have today.
The world has changed. We can never, ever go back to yesterday.
All right, so I think we are done with the session, and I look forward to your comments and questions. I generally engage a full 2-credit course of 36 hours on digital transformation and e-business. So please bear with me if I have been able to compress it to your taste and suitability. So with this, we conclude this session, and I am open to various questions. As you can see, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, which industry do you belong to, even if it is guarded by intellectual property and your knowledge, you will be definitely transformed because of digitalization. So,
no video. Thank you, sir. That was an enriching session. We are indeed facing multiple challenges, but with the right support and in-depth knowledge we gained today, we will definitely leverage the right technology, and I'm sure we can sail through this crisis. It is high time we revamp our professionals, upgrade our social media brand, and build our virtual network so that we sustain in post-COVID times. So we have a few questions lined up for the speaker. Please do not unmute participants. Should you have any queries, please post your questions in the chat box provided. I hope that the session was very intriguing, and now I shall pose the questions to Dr. Drupad sir from what the participants have asked. So one of the participants asks you how to handle employee pushback during digital transformation.
That's a very interesting question and a very important one, so much so that without the participation of your employees, no transformation, whether digital or otherwise, can happen. So the answer does not lie in technology. It lies in the organization culture. And when I said that the McKinsey report tells us that more than 40% of digital transformations fail, one of the key reason was the organization resistance and organizational culture. So the answer to this question actually lies in the organizational culture. What type of culture you have created, whether people are being incentivized to think innovatively, to ask questions, to participate in futuristic development, or they are just too fearful, and they are just told to do their jobs. The innovation doesn't happen in such organizations, unfortunately. There are case studies after case studies where big companies, too big to fail, and highly successful in the yesteryears, in those good old days, have failed miserably only because they could not adopt technology, not because of that they were not having enough money, but just because of this cultural factor. So the answer lies in correcting your organizational culture.
Thank you, sir. One of the participants asks you whether everything will be digitalized, how it is to be reached out into the interior places, and what about the problem faced by the uneducated people?
Very good question. we are soon going to overcome this barrier of haves and have-nots. Let me tell you, 15-20 years ago, there were people who had access to technology, people who had access to internet, or people who had access to education, and those people who didn't have this access were marginalized because of, we used to call it the digital divide, but not anymore. The technological proliferation is increasing so much that this barrier will actually cease to exist. So it doesn't know whether you are formally educated or not. You can still use, like it's already happening in most of the Indian villages. Just imagine, think in your state, how many villagers, or in other states, how many villagers are keeping a smartphone. Nobody has taught them how to use those mobile applications. They're already using it. So it is actually a function of technological maturity and technological proliferation. I sincerely believe that the technology is not going to widen the digital divide, but it is going to only narrow the digital divide. Technology is becoming more and more accessible, cheaper, faster. In fact, I remember my experience working with the government of India. I was an internal advisor, internal consultant in the national e-governance plan of the central government. We conceptualized the entire blueprint some like 14-15 years ago of the national e-governance plan, keeping in mind the web-based service delivery using websites, right? And in no time, in a couple of years, we realized that, hey, this mobile revolution is happening, where every other person in every village has already started carrying his mobile phone. You don't have to do only this web-based, you need to now do mobile-based as well. So proliferation is happening, and we have to be aware about it. The fourth industrial revolution concepts are so prolific in nature that they give you a very, very different front end, and you will have more and more immersive experiences with technology, irrespective of your education, irrespective of the fact that whether you are rich or poor, etc. Those in technology will come to you. You will not have to go to technology.
Thank you, sir. Question to you is how digitalization is going to change the teaching and learning activity?
Well, it has already changed actually, and I mean, I never thought that I teach at SPJ, and I teach specialization courses in technology management. Never ever, I've been with SPJ for last 12 years, and never ever I thought that I will end up delivering my classes using Zoom and video conferencing tools. My students are in Sydney and in Singapore, and I fly down, I teach in Sydney, and I have to be with them. That's a part of our delivery. But I delivered those classes using video conferencing tools. So we are forced to change ourselves. Education sector has to change fast. I was mentioning about some models like Udemy, edX, and Coursera that are very, very disruptive. You can get courses from some renowned professors at a very fraction of a cost. You can get certificate, and just a matter of time that if we are not able to focus on our core competence, the education sector will be deeply disrupted. So today it doesn't prevent anyone, from any small place or any village or any town. He or she can get education from the best professors in the best universities using online mechanism. So will the local teachers be needed, right? And that's the question we need to, how do you create a unique proposition for yourself? Okay, as of now, I think, as someone in the education sector, that the only thing which is just protecting us are our regulators, that sometimes we hate most, but still they are the ones who are protecting us.
Thank you, sir. Another question from the participant. Every new digital transformation and new technology, there is a destruction of the old. So how technologists overcome this?
Actually, there is no need to think about overcoming the disruption or I would say destruction of the old. The new grows in place of the old, or sometimes the new model itself is going to grow away from the old model. So this is actually a natural process. So all the business models go through their maturity and they go through their decline. Old models will definitely go through their decline, and some of them will transform, some of them will transform beyond recognition, and some of them will completely be replaced by new models. So it is just a natural cycle of technological adoption, maturity, and then decline. It happens in every industry, and no industry is aloof. In fact, if you ask me, in one line, how will I explain the propensity of this type of decline in any industry? I will say, if you have been successful for a long time, there is a high likelihood that your industry is coming to a decline very soon. So if you have a tried and tested business model for a long time, you think I'm safe, you can go to sleep. No, not anymore. So if you've been successful for a long time, your industry is going very close to disaster. So watch it out.
Thank you, sir. One more question. One participant asks you to express your views for the role of digitalization in the education sector.
Absolutely. Education sector will gain a lot from digitalization, and obviously the stakeholders will have to change. Predominantly, all the professors, the lecturers, the support staff, and the students are also their consumption pattern is also changing very fast. So it's important that we understand that the education sector has a lot to gain from digitalization, and this will be in the benefit of all the stakeholders, because as I said, that's the power of IT in terms of having much higher efficiency, much greater transparency, accountability, etc. It will change the underlying processes. It is going to impact the way learners are actually learning things. In fact, we already see a lot of it. It's already happening. You have your nowadays for each and everything that we used to do as a college, a university, you would have some IT systems. For examination, you have ExamSoft. For your classroom management, you have a Blackboard system. You have archival system for all your libraries online. So across various functions of an education system, the change has already started happening, and with more and more gamification and AI, etc., coming into picture, this is going to grow. There are various applications of engaged learning in practice. We are also doing it here at SP Jain campuses, and technology plays a very important role. We have a very interesting concept of ELO, engaged learning online, where we provide highly immersive classroom experience. It's a live classroom experience to our students using technology, while the professor and the students are actually far apart. Somebody is delivering lecture from Sydney, the students are spread across all over the globe, and it's not a recorded session, or it's not an online learning. It's a highly immersive, engaged learning platform that we have. So just to answer your question in brief, the education sector is getting dissolved with the help of technology, or transformed with the help of technology from various angles, from various directions, and we have no choice but to live with it and change ourselves, change our skills, and welcome technology rather than resisting it. Okay.
Absolutely. So one question: does automation in all fields lead to higher level of unemployment?
This is a very interesting one indeed, and I think one of the most feared thing about automations, people say, is this, that it will lead to higher unemployment. That is a very narrow way of looking at things, because it will lead to change in the job profiles for sure, but at the same time it will create a different type of job opportunities. So it's actually not job loss, but it is about the shift in the type of jobs that people need to do. So I don't see this as a loss, but I see this as a shift. Please understand, and it's very important for all of you as educators. Being your colleague, I'm an educator, I would advise you, and when you talk to your students, keep this in mind, because there is a lot of fear. Students think that, oh, technology is coming in a big way and everything will be disrupted and there would be job loss. No, maybe traditional jobs don't exist, but you have to tell them that, hey, this is not a loss, it's a shift. Train yourself, be ready to get reskilled, retrained, and get the best out of this upcoming revolution before you miss the bus. So be ready for this shift. So please call it a shift and not a loss.
Sir, there's one question. Is recruiting going on for academic sector like associate professors or for postdoctorates study abroad, or after some time it will begin? That's a query coming from one participant.
It's a pretty broad question. There are so many universities and colleges and higher education institutions. So yeah, quite a few of them are recruiting. I can see, if you look at some of the prominent portals, we can still see the job vacancies being floating. So to answer it in brief, I think yes, there might be delay in the process. There might be a little bit of a change in the plans here and there, but on the whole, the answer is yes. Why not? As long as there is this need.
Yes, there's one question again, sir. How digital education transformation can affect on the health of a human being?
Yes, I see where you are coming from in terms of screen time and being glued only to PCs. Obviously, we all human beings we like to interact with human beings, right? Not with the screens. So it will have an impact on your schedule and maybe eventually perhaps on your health. But it is just a matter of training yourself for this new way of doing things. And I think the answer lies in balancing it out. So we don't really have to do things the old way, which means if something requires 18 contact hours, maybe you can do it in 6 contact hours and keep room for other activities, etc. So you decrease the screen time, but balancing is the name of the game. So if you're able to balance it well, I don't think it's going to impact. And rather than that, I see this is a good opportunity to perhaps focus more on your health, because technology has given you more time, perhaps free time, to focus on your health, health of yourself as well as health of your family members as well.
Thank you, sir. I think sir has answered all the queries of the participants. I hope that sir has answered all the queries, participants. On behalf of Villamari Degree College for Women and the IQAC team, I take this privilege to propose a vote of thanks to the attendees present. My heartfelt thanks to Dr. Philomena, who has been the trailblazer and a guiding force. I would like to extend my congenial thanks to our keynote speaker today, Dr. Drupad Mathur, for having endured his precious time and obliging to our webinar today. Indeed, the participants have posted appreciative comments on the content of the webinar, sir. Thank you so much for enlightening us with the topic. A big appreciation and thanks to all the attendees who have been patient listeners throughout. Thank you for your overwhelming participation. Last but not the least, an applause to the team IQAC, who are the forerunners and the people backstage, without whom this live streaming right from Dubai wouldn't have been possible. Kudos to my team. Your opinion matters to us so that we implement and improvise. I request Mr. Chandrasekhar and Mr. Naveen to share the link in the chat box for the submission of the feedback forms. Dear participants, the link is now available in the chat box. Please go ahead and access the link to submit your feedback forms and be ensured that your submission of the feedback form confirms your certificate. E-certificates will reach you within a week. If there are any queries related to the certificates issue, kindly drop a mail on the technical team after 1 week. For further queries, reach us at iqacvmdc@gmail.com. The information is available on the screen as well. Until then, keep calm, stay safe. Have a nice evening, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir. I request Dr. Drupad to kindly stay until the participants leave.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
Dr. Drupad, sir.
Yes, please.
So, since this is official and we have to close down immediately for this meeting, I humbly request you to join us on yesterday's